I'm making two crucial errors in this clip. If you're not sure what they are, keep watching. Today, I'm going to cover some of the worst routing mistakes that I made as a new woodworker and how they can be easily avoided. If you're new to woodworking too, then you are not going to want to miss this, especially the last one. It's a game changer. And if you're new to the channel, then welcome. I'm Jack and I make weekly woodworking and DIY videos, the latest tool reviews, as well as silly little videos like this one where I'm trying to turn a penny into £1,000. Let's get into it. Starting us off, we've got biting off too much at once. And this one is crucial because it affects the quality of your finish as well as the longevity of your router bits. Take this bit here for example. When I first started out woodworking, I would have taken this 25mm diagonal router bit and gone right ahead and routed off the corner of this piece of wood. For anyone that's done this before, you will know that this is not what you want to do. This is likely to cause a subpar finish, especially when you're routing towards the edge of the piece of timber. Routing off too much can cause the entire edge to chip off, and that can ruin a great woodworking project. Instead, what you want to do is route in various stages. So for something like this, I might go in 1 or 2 passes first, slowly working my way up to that final depth that I'm trying to achieve. And this brings us nicely into mistake number 2, which is not practicing on a scrap piece of wood first. Now, when you first buy yourself a nice fancy router bit set, you might be somewhat overwhelmed with the amount of options that you've got for your router. And a new woodworker might get very excited, grab a router bit, start using it on their woodworking project that's nearly complete, only to realize that it isn't giving them the finish that they would like, and by that point it is too late. So especially when you're using new router bits, make sure to grab yourself a practice piece of timber first, just to see what the finish is like and make sure that you're happy with it before you apply that to your final project. Another big mistake that new woodworkers make is routing in the wrong direction. Now, it's a lot easier to practice the right technique than actually explain it, but I'm going to give it a go. First, you need to make sure that you're always moving the router against the rotation of the bit. That allows the bit to cut into the wood and gives you full control over the router. So for example, if you were trying to route the edges of this board, you'd move the router from left to right across the edge closest to you. But when routing the opposite edge, you would now want to route from right to left. It's all about making sure that this piece of the router with the sharp edge is digging into the wood in the direction that you are pushing it. If you try to push the router in the same direction as the rotation of the bit, then you're going to be fighting the router to not run away with you. Now, it is true that more advanced woodworkers will do this on purpose and they refer to this technique as a climb curve. But if you consider yourself a new woodworker, I would advise trying to avoid this. Next is not investing in a good set of router bits. Quality bits are essential for good results and can make a significant difference to the ease of cutting. And I'm going to combine this tip with something else, which is only buy the router bits that you need. Something I did very early on was buy this trend set of router bits that comes with 24 different bits that you can choose from. However, in reality, I use about 4 of them on a regular basis, and there's probably 10 to 15 that have never come out the box, so really think about what ones you're going to need so you don't waste money in the long run. I highly recommend this router bit set from Trend. I've been using it for years and they've served me very well. And if you're liking this video so far, please go ahead and smash the like button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm spread it to more people, and I would really appreciate it. Now, I can still remember when I first started out woodworking and started routing things, I was pretty convinced that the burn that you see along the edge was just a byproduct of routing and it's something that couldn't be avoided. It wasn't until much later on that I realized that this could be avoided by just speeding up a little bit. So if you're seeing router burn like this on your project, it probably means that you are going too slow, or if you have an adjustable router, it might be set too high. You should always refer to the manufacturer's recommended settings when using a router bit, and if you are finding that you're getting this burn, then you want to speed up a little bit and that should help avoid it. The next tip is to be aware of the bearing. Now, most of these router bits will have this little metal bearing along the top. And if you're routing softwood and you apply a lot of pressure, you might find that this bearing does leave a visible groove in your woodworking, which at worst will ruin your project or at best require you to do a little bit more sanding. And who's got time for more sanding?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
If you are routing softwood and you're finding that this bearing is leaving an imprint, then you can just use some masking tape along the edge that the bearing will be rolling through, and this will help avoid that imprint altogether. Something I have done more times than I care to admit is over tighten the collet on the top of the router itself. And although this doesn't impact your woodworking projects directly, it does impact you and your knuckles. When I first started out, I thought that you needed to tighten the bolt that holds the bit into the router as hard as you physically could. And of course, while this means that that router bit is going nowhere, it does mean that when you come to swap out that router bit, that your knuckles are going to end up bouncing off the worktop with the amount of pressure that you need to apply to loosen it off. To avoid that nasty mistake, what I would recommend you do is finger tighten the collet first, and then go ahead and grab a spanner and give it a slight turn just to make sure it's not going anywhere. Routers do spin in the opposite direction to the thread of that collet, so it shouldn't come loose if you've done this. If you are a new woodworker and you're trying to build up your first collection of tools, then I've got good news for you. I'm trying to prove that you do not need to spend a fortune to begin woodworking, and I'm doing that by starting with a penny and aiming to create £1,000 with no tools. And you can watch that by clicking here next. Until next time, happy building.